The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I'm your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is the post show. It is the post show from this debate, post-debate analysis. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but you know how it is this time of night. You can weigh in on the conversation, 857-600-0518. A lot of things frustrating about tonight's debate with the with Ted Cruz and Tim Scott and Maria Cantwell and who else's name is Cantwell? There's somebody else who I talk about on a regular basis whose name is this is a horrible. I'm thinking of the crying Nazi Cantwell, something Cantwell, but I digress. And then Bernie Sanders. A lot of things that are irritating about tonight's debate. And I honestly, if I had to say somebody won, it would be the Republican Party. I'm not quite sure. Let me adjust something here on YouTube. I'm not quite sure how you lose a debate. And it could just be me being super anal about this particular issue, which is why I'm up talking about it at 10:30 at night instead of being in the bed getting ready to wake up at 6 a.m. But passionate about this issue. And when you see people not seize the opportunity to expose to America, particularly Bernie Sanders, right? Sanders did the best that he could do. I'm not knocking him. I'm generally a fan of him. But I felt like Maria Cantwell actually presented the best arguments against the Republican policy, against the Republican tax plan. And that might sound shocking to some people because, as I mentioned it, people are like, oh, she's a centrist. She's this, she's that. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't care really who she is because at this point, we need everybody. We need all hands on deck, neoliberals and all. Right, this tax plan is beyond just This requires everyone. This bill that the Republican Party is trying to shove down the throats of American is a beyond a handout to corporations. It fundamentally changes the nature of our system. It requires cuts to Medicare, which nobody talked about. Nobody even brought up the fact that year over year, year after year, 4% cut is mandated by the pay goal legislation. Sequestration is going to require 4% cut from Medicare every single year, which is about $25 billion every year that is going to be taken from Medicare, and nobody mentioned that. Of course, the Republicans weren't going to mention that, but that was the job of Bernie Sanders and Maria Cantwell to mention that. Nobody mentioned that. And then finally, if it not have been for that graduate student who was not the least bit impressed by Tim Scott's deflection about the fact that taxes are going to go up on grad students, if not for her, no one would have brought in the question about how this tax bill would increase taxes on graduate students. And they're, they seem to fail to realize, or actually what Tim Scott and the Republican Party is saying is that, hey, you're in grad school, so you know what, pay this bill for us now and you'll get a good job. You'll get a good job and be able to pay that back. Right? You don't even have to worry about the fact that you'll be paying, 30% of your income as a student to taxes on income that you don't literally receive, that you can convert into your other uses, right? These are tuition waivers, are not dollars in your pocket. Tuition waivers are essentially just saying that you don't have to pay this tuition. It's a waiver, but you're going to be taxed on it. This was a give me. This was a give me for Democrats, and they could have easily exposed. Someone in the chat room, the Philosopher's Stone, said, let's face it, the Dems are in on it. I don't have to go there. You could argue that, but I don't even think that's the problem. And this is why the subtitle is this: why Democrats always lose these debates. It's because Democrats actually know, because Republicans have it easy. It is extremely easy to do what Ted Cruz did tonight, which was simply to say, you want to raise taxes, and we want to lower taxes. That's the easiest talking point in the world, and anyone is going to get excited about that. Say, well, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to take a look at it and see what these Republicans are talking about. They're talking about cutting my taxes, so maybe I'll just go and check them out. And in reality, by 2023, if you make less than $75,000 a year, you're going to see a tax increase. So what they're going to do is give you enough lower taxes, enough to get them past the midterms after the 2020 election. Do you see how perfectly timed that is? So the benefits of the tax breaks, you will feel by 2020. You're going to feel it and be like, this is good. Let's elect Donald Trump into office again. Let's elect Republicans back into power. Get past the midterms of 2022, and they're like, oh man, this is good. This is great. Republicans are doing great things. 2023, when it's said and done, and Republican majorities have been set in stone, and the Supreme Court is in control, full control of the Republican Party, 87 million Americans will see their taxes increase. But you know who won't see their taxes increase? Millionaires and billionaires. And you know whose tax breaks are permanent? Corporations. Alas. It is. Andrew Harrison said in the chat room, it's easier saying lower taxes is such an easy cop-out, while actually saying raising taxes to help others is a bit of a harder sell. And that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And here's the other reason Democrats lose these debates, and they're going to continue to lose these debates. And it's almost pointless to even have the debate, because the Republicans have set this in motion so that they can pass this tax bill without any input from Democrats. But I don't think Democrats did themselves any favor. Bernie Sanders, right? Bernie Sanders didn't do himself any favor, or didn't do America any favor tonight, because they continue to argue on without challenging the underlying premises, right? They never challenged the fact, for instance, let's pull one that Ted Cruz loves to use all the time. John F. Kennedy. Oh, John F. Kennedy. I got to get his voice right. I want to do his voice one day, because he's such an insane man with a crazy voice. But John F. Kennedy, he lowered taxes. If he was in the Democratic Party today, he'll be chased out of the party. However the hell his voice is, I don't care. But the point is that that's his favorite talking point. And the fact of the matter is that JFK lowered taxes when taxes were at an all-time high. Right? You suggest simply, and don't even argue on that. I already fell into my own trap. Don't even argue that. Simply say, at what point will you stop lowering taxes? Is there a point where you're going to cut taxes? And what if taxes are at 0%? Do you still expect that to stimulate the economy? That's what you asked them. If taxes were at 0%, where are you going to go to stimulate the economy? Because their entire argument is based on cutting taxes grows the economy. Cutting taxes stimulates the economy. All right, at what point will they no longer stimulate the economy? They're not going to answer that. They're going to deflect. But the fact of the matter is this. It's very simple to explain to people. If cutting taxes stimulates the economy, there has to be a bottom point. And there's also a race to the bottom when you're talking about international competition for corporations. That's not a race that we want to be in. Tim Scott mentioned Ireland, 4%, taxes at 4%. We don't want corporations who only have a 4% commitment to our society. God damn it, that's the way you should phrase this. I should be the messaging man. I should run for office. Your taxes represent your commitment to this society. Do you want corporations who only have a 4% commitment to the society when they're taking 100% of the benefits from the society? God, I mean, why am I still in the middle class? I need to get these consultant fees where motherfuckers are out. Excuse me, sorry, I don't have to cuss, but these people are out here making millions of dollars to give them bad talking points. Taxes represent your commitment to America, not even society. Don't even say things lofty as society. Taxes represent your commitment to America, particularly corporations, because they're not people. They're businesses. And do you want to be in a competition with Ireland, who says you only have to have a 4% commitment to our country? That's a race to the bottom. And eventually, what are you going to do? I mean, Ireland is having to backtrack now. I believe they're having to get lost taxes because of the bill from the European Union. It's just at the top of my head. I have to get the specifics of it. But there's going to become a point in time when you have gotten to the bottom and you're giving away. You're paying these corporations to come to your country. And for what? Why? Why are you paying them to come to your country? To create jobs? There are other ways to create jobs. Small businesses represent the biggest bulk of job creation, right? So we don't have to do a race to the bottom with these corporations, giving them only a 4% commitment to America. We don't want that. Taxes represent, and see, this is, messaging is everything. Taxes represent, and hang on before I reiterate that, it's specifically important during these debates. You have to cut through their talking points and don't even bother answering their loaded questions. Why would you even, that's one thing I actually have to give Maria Cantwell. She actually did that very well. She refused to answer the questions that were posed to her by Tim Scott or by Ted Cruz, and she answered what she wanted to answer because Republicans are going to do the same thing. But in these presentations and these debates, you have to be able to expose to the people who are listening to you the fallacious nature of your opponent's entire, not only argument, but their entire premise. The thing that they're basing their arguments on. It's wrong. Cutting taxes will not always stimulate the economy. When JFK cut taxes, taxes were high enough so that if we cut them, it actually stimulated the economy. Corporations right now are sitting on more wealth than they ever had in the history of the United States. They do not need more money to stimulate the economy, and nor is it, and this is something that Maria Cantwell did well, but she didn't close the deal. She kept blowing away that premise. Cutting taxes is not a guarantee to job growth. There is no guarantee unless you write it in the legislation. But she never required the Republicans on stage, Tim Scott and your boy Ted Cruz. She never required them to face that question. Ted Cruz loves calling you on the carpet saying, what's the difference between a Democrat and a socialist? Bitch, who cares? That's not what we're talking about tonight. We want to know from you why you want the corporations and the richest people in America to have the minimal amount of commitment to the United States of America. and to the society from which they derive their wealth. They literally take their wealth off of the dollars and pennies of each and every one of us. They have no problem whatsoever with having hundreds of millions of people living on the edge, because living on the edge means you probably have another 50 cents that you could squeeze, or you might find $7 for gas that day because you have to get to work. And they're perfectly okay with that because they get that $7. They get that 50 cents. They get that from 100 million people, and their profits go out the roof. They're perfectly okay with having millions upon millions of people living from paycheck to paycheck, because they know as soon as you get that paycheck, your overdraft fees are going to suck up the first 20% of your paycheck, and they get that. And not only do they get that, then they get all of your regular bills. All of that goes to banking institutions, and then you have to consume to survive. You have to buy food. You have to pay, you have to just do things to survive. They get that money too. And at the end of the first day of your paycheck, you've got less than 10% of your paycheck left if you're lucky. They have no problem whatsoever creating a society where everyone is living on the edge, because they've created the mechanisms to get every penny of all of us who are living on the edge. And from that edge lifestyle, they have created ways of generating insane amounts of wealth. They can get their profit margin by squeezing the last bit of income from us, and they hit their profit margins. So they have no qualm whatsoever with having no commitment to America and to the American society from which they derive their wealth. They have no concern whatsoever with you and I living paycheck to paycheck, so long as they get that paycheck. When you finally get that paycheck, it goes right back to them. They have zero commitment. They want zero commitment to this American society. They don't even care. Do you realize they don't even care? Corporations and Republicans and the wealthiest among us, and some Democrats, but particularly Republicans. They do. I lost my thought giving all the caveats. I got to stop giving caveats. Well, there you go. Let's read some comments. Let's see the comment section. It'll come to me in a minute, and because it was a good point. Let's see. Let's read some questions. The right-wingers around me, no government, no taxes, Christian nation, and libs dead. That actually is a good point that I want to expound on in a minute. They have no interest in everyday people, working, disabled, poor, working poor. They said this during the DNC election. Let's see what else is going on. I mean, I think that was pointed towards the Democratic Party. But I mean, this is where Democrats are inept. They have not, and this is where they need socialists. This is where they need like actual people who have done critical analysis of capitalism and our American economy, and they need us to provide them with these points, or they need us to be the face and the force behind it, because they're inept here. And the reason I say it's inept and not malicious, it's because the Democrats have had an opportunity. I mean, if you wanted to see the Democrats do their worst, they did it during the Obama administration. Right? They had control of Congress. They had all the ability. They're not there. They are not there to cut Medicare in order to give tax breaks to the rich. I'm sorry. I would never. I mean, don't, not trying to knock the person who said that in the chat room and people on Facebook or wherever. But the fact of the matter is there is a dynamic difference, and this is where it is exposed the most. The difference is that you're not going to have Democrats who sit there and cut SNAP benefits in order to pay for tax breaks for the for the wealthiest. You're not going to have Democrats who are willing to sit there and see a 4% cut in Medicare every single year, year after year, in order to pay for the deficits that are caused by the tax breaks for the wealthy. Right? Democrats are not going to sit there and eviscerate the middle class by seeing tax hikes on the middle class in 2023 in order to pay for the tax breaks for the wealthy. Right? There's a dynamic difference. And so, maybe not. Maybe, and I would agree, maybe the Democratic Party is not the party for actually changing the system in a dynamic way. But they're not these vultures who are out there willing to feast on our remains. Literally, they're feasting on the remains of our paycheck. We work all day, every single damn day, and you have corporations who are sitting there like vultures, and every one of them get a piece of our check. And when it's all said and done, we're out here and like we can't even go to the damn doctor right? You still have people, even though and this is the distinction. The Democrats gave us Obamacare, which patched the system but didn't fix the system and definitely didn't make the system better. But we still have people right now who are literally dying because they're having to ration their medication. And corporations and Republicans are like, oh, that's not bad enough. Because there's still enough people who are alive to work to help generate our profits. The only time they will actually give a damn about people is when they have broken us down to the point where they can no longer drain wealth out of us. That's it. That's it. When we are too broken down, too tired, people dying on the streets, not enough. And they won't care when people die on the streets. It's when enough people die on the streets to hurt their profit margin. Then they will say, maybe we should have a Social Security program so senior citizens aren't dying in the streets. Because you know why? You can't get money out of dead people, but you can get money out of people living on the edge. Roy Scott said, I wish Bernie and Cantwell debunked Scott's isolation of attacks that helps some working people, but not the overall analysis. There's a lot of that. There was a lot of doublespeak. I mean, Republicans are masters of doublespeak. There was quite a bit of saying one thing and meaning something entirely different. I'm trying to think of, there's several examples. I'm trying to pinpoint one that I can expound on, but they would clearly say to you, for instance, the average American, they said this is going to help the average American. And, if you fact check that, they're talking about the average income of Americans, which is totally different than the median income of the average American. So the average income of Americans will go up, sure, because millionaires and billionaires will have more money than they could even shake a stick at. Candidate solution isn't a solution. All possible solutions need to be utilized. Candidate. Okay, so that's a whole different conversation. I won't keep reading that. Let me jump over to Twitter. I want to see what Twitter is talking about. And I also want to jump over to Facebook and see what Facebook is talking about. And I'm still having a little difficulties with the phones tonight. So if I can get them up and running briefly, we'll take a couple of phone calls. But tonight's going to be an abbreviated episode because it's so late. And I still have to get up at 5:30 like every single day. And all of us are living this life, man. All of us are living this life where we are like grinding away at this system, giving everything that we absolutely have. And we have people who are making more money than has ever been seen in all humanity. And it's not enough. It's not enough for them. Jeff Bezos is worth $100 billion. And, that's not enough. Republicans feel like they need to give him more. They need to give him more. And more specifically, they feel like he should have. It's like the wealthier you get, the less responsibility you have to the American society. Period. The less responsibility you have to the society from which you derive your wealth. I wish I could drive this home to 100 million people to realize that there is no Walmart without us. There is no Amazon without us. There's no Facebook, there's no Twitter, there's nothing without the masses. This wealth is derived from the masses, and this Republican tax bill is saying that we can take wealth from the masses and have no responsibility to helping the masses that we're draining the last goddamn cent from. I mean, literally, just take it on a micro analysis, your personal bank account. A lot of you who I'm talking to right now, you're in the overdraft. Because payday is Friday and today is Tuesday. If you're not in the overdraft, you're somewhere around, you're holding on by a thin razor edge, like living on the edge like never before. Yeah, there's some people who listen to me who are doing good. Great, congratulations. Glad you're doing good. You're doing finance or you're doing something, computer engineering. Those are industries that pay well. They pay you well enough. I was thinking about this today. They pay you well enough to never want to change the system. Never. You're not Jeff Bezos rich, and you're going to be paying some serious taxes because you're being targeted here. $75,000 a year, you're going to be taxed too in 2023 when these taxes go up. But I digress. But most of the people listening to me, working class, lower middle class people, you're living on the literal edge where if you have 32 cents in your bank account, you have entities there waiting to take that 32 cents. And while they're taking your last dime, they are telling you in this legislation from the Republican Party that they want nothing to do with the society surrounding you. If you get sick, they do not care. It's not their responsibility. It's not their responsibility. If you become homeless or you can't afford your rent, they don't care. They got what they needed from you. I mean, these corporations are literally like pimps getting everything they can possibly get from you and leaving you there just to die. I mean, this is like, they're not connecting these dots. The Democratic Party is not connecting these dots because they're terrified of this type of rhetoric. They're terrified of being seen as people waging class warfare, right? But in the meantime, we are engaged in a class warfare being waged on poor people and lower middle class people by the wealthiest people in the world, but in America and in the world, by this tax legislation from the Republican Party. And if the Democratic Party is not going to, Bernie Sanders too, who's an independent, right? I think Bernie Sanders is missing the boat because he's stuck with some talking points, the same talking points. If Bernie Sanders is not going to go all the way in and talk about the fact that most Americans, there is an entire industry that the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, tried to fight back against, but now the Republican Party is gutting that. There's an entire industry that's designed to make money off of your overdraft fees. I mean, it's the banking industry, but there's an entire business schema that's set up because they know they can't make money. Have I told you guys this story? I don't think I have. I remember somewhere about, I probably did, but I'm going to tell you again. This is perfect way to just demonstrate what I'm talking about. Somewhere about 2000, I don't know, 5, 2006, 2000, somewhere in there, when I was like teaching and not really making a whole lot of money. I'm not making a whole lot of money now, but anyway, I was teaching miserable and still not making a lot of money. And so it never failed. Every 2 weeks, by the time payday came around, I was in the overdraft for about $200. And then, boom, that set a chain of events in motion, so that guaranteed that by the next pay cycle, I was in the overdraft by $200. Majority overdraft fees. With Bank of America, call them out. Bank of America. And so I started analyzing the hell out of my statements. I'm like, this just doesn't make any sense. How the hell am I still in the overdraft? And I'm like watching all of my money, and I'm looking at the bank account. I get my bank statement before I go buy anything, and I get my balance on my mobile device or at the ATM at the time, and make sure I had the money that I could go do this. And it never failed. And then I started organizing my statements and purchases and receipts. I started lining up my receipts with what my statement said. And you could look at the time of the day, and even sometimes the day of the damn week when I made purchases. Bank of America was notorious at rearranging. Some of you already know what I'm talking about. They would rearrange your purchases so that the biggest item would come out first, no matter when you paid it, so that at the end, when you're out of money, that's $5 Starbucks or that $2 McDonald's or that whatever 50 cents something, you end up paying $40 for those things because of a $35 overdraft. I want to make sure that you're hearing this game, because I don't know if you listening specifically went through this, but there was a class action lawsuit around this. And I wasn't part of the lawsuit, but I was, because I knew, I went directly to the bank and made threats about, I'm going to go to the Senate Finance Committee, blah, blah, blah. I made a lot of grandiose threats, but I got my money back. I got a lot of my money back. And when most people who signed up for the class action lawsuit, I think they got like $25 back. I think I ended up getting like $400 back over time, because I'm like, F that. I peep your game. But let me explain one more time. Let's say you get paid on Friday. And Friday, what you do is you go out, or you go to McDonald's, because that's all the shit you can afford. And you spend $5 there, and you spend $10 on a movie on Friday. Monday, you pay your rent, right? Bank of America was notorious for saying, that doesn't matter. We're going to rearrange this. Your rent that you paid on Monday, we're going to back that up to Friday. And that Starbucks and that McDonald's that you got on Friday, we're going to put that after your rent. So that now your rent takes care, boom. You're in the overdraft because of your rent, and now you pay $60 in over or $70 in overdraft fees for those 2 little items. There was a class action lawsuit around this, and so I when I caught wind of it, and I mapped out everything, and I went to the bank, and I said, why do you do this? Why do you, and I asked the teller, not a teller, I asked one of the managers of the bank, I said, why do you rearrange these things so that they cause the maximum amount of damage in overdraft fees? And you know what that woman told me? I lied to you, swear as I'm standing here in this blue sweater. She said, because we have to make money off of you somehow. We have to make money off of you somehow. And then everything start clicking. Banks only really make money when they can actually loan out your money. If they can't really loan out your money and get interest on your money, how do they make money off of the rest of us? Well, those of us who never have enough money to leave in a bank and actually put in the savings, let alone a money market account or a CD, those of us who never have any of those types of things, they can't really make money off of us. And so what do? They hit you with overdraft fees. $35 a pop. Pop. An entire business model created to make money off of people who don't have the money already. That's how we, and this went on for years. And the reason I'm telling you this is for twofold. Number one, they are designed, this entire system, these people, the corporations, the wealthiest people in America, by proxy of their organization, of their corporations, they are designed to make billions of dollars in profits off of all of us who are living on the edge. They literally are perfectly okay with you never putting money in a money market account because it's actually probably quicker and easier for them to just get that $35 overdraft fee for that Starbucks, $35 overdraft fee for that $4.99 meal at McDonald's, a $35 overdraft fee for all these little things, and that just stacks up. And I know at least 20%, maybe 50% of my audience knows exactly what the hell I'm talking about. And those same people want zero responsibility to this society from which they drain their wealth. We're literally economic zombies. You and I, average Americans, we are economic zombies, and we're just here. We're just here working all damn day long, and we have nothing to show for it. They're just taking every penny from us all day long, every single day. We can't gain capital. What's capital to the proletariat? It's savings. Most of us couldn't survive a $500 emergency. And here we are just going through life, just like a zombie, just dragging our body and just going through the motion, and we're sharecroppers. We're all sharecroppers. This is not even a racial connotation this time. This is every middle class, lower middle class, and working class American. We're sharecroppers, where we're simply working. We're in the feudal system already. We're working just to give every penny that we make to someone else. And now they're saying we don't even want a commitment to the roads that you go to work on. We don't even want a commitment to the infrastructure. We don't even want a commitment to your education. We don't care. We don't want a commitment to your health. We don't want a commitment to any of those things. We want to take everything from you with zero commitment to America. Or if you're in Ireland, 4%. Because we got to be competitive with Ireland, right? We got to be, so maybe 3%. We want a 3% commitment. And then as soon as this is the race to the bottom. As soon as we get to a 3% commitment here, well, then Ireland will say, okay, well, we'll give you a 2% corporate tax rate. And then the other thing is where the Democrats put in some stopgap measures and some, to stop the hemorrhaging give us some protections against this malicious behavior by corporations, by banks. It by no means reversed or improved. It just kind of stopped the hemorrhaging. Republicans are saying, hell nah, bitch, we got to get that money. And so then now they're gutting the CFPB. A lot of us may not have liked the world that Democrats wanted, but I like the Republican dream for America far less. Far, far, far less. All right. That's all I got, man. That's all I got. It's late. I got to get up super early in the morning. And so check me out tomorrow. Help me break out of the system and go become a patron. Patreon.com/the BPD show. Subscribe, like, share, all those kind of things. And we will see you to, where's my closing? Show closer. See you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
It's Ben Dixon!
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.